Welcome to Healing Your Family Legacy, here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Innovative, evidence-based recovery that helps to identify intergenerational trauma, allowing for freedom and embracement of the healing process. Today, episode 93, Shared Trauma and Resiliency, Part 4. And now your host, Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee.
This is Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee, helping you heal your family legacy. So last time I told you about, how I responded to lightning because it was one of my childhood traumas. And so, it's like I told you two stories, one about the truck that turned over and how I responded to that, which was me going towards it. The other one was about lightning and, a group of women that I had up in the mountains with me. And, when I tell you that mountains are more like home to me than any place else on the planet, you have to understand that's true. So I feel comfortable, safe, and solid when I'm in the mountains. But in this situation, I was asleep. And so when I left off, I said I would tell you the story about getting hit by lightning. Because when I said that might have, perked a few ears up and you wonder, gosh, how is she still sitting there? Well, so I will tell you that story because my reaction to that was completely different than the reaction that I had to the mountain, the lightning and thunderstorm in the mountains. And I'm telling you this because these are really good examples of the level of resilience that people have in the face of trauma, and how when you've had trauma in your childhood, how it might affect you in your adult life, whether you grow and become more resilient or whether you stop. Okay. So the story is this. When I was in high school, junior high and high school, we finally lived in the family home, the home that was, originally my grandfather's, and my grandfather's father was a settler in that town in Utah. And so this home, and my mother was born in it, okay? All of my aunts and uncles were born in this home, and it was the family home, the Bevan family home. So, my grandparents who were living in that house thought we should live there, maybe calm my dad down, get him out of his fantasy about being a rodeo cowboy. And so they offered us the home and they built a house next to it. And that was really cool. We lived in that really cool house until, I finished growing up there. So until I was 17. But when I had just graduated from high school and I was, all full of self-importance because I was going off to the university. And that was the first time anybody in our family had ever gone to college. And it was kind of an accident because I never thought about going to college. It just wasn't in my repertoire. And then one of my teachers thought I should go. So, made it happen. See? There's a person that took interest, that cared about me, and that thought I had abilities. That was important. That helped build my resilience. Anyway, so it was an evening. It was still in the summer, so, it was probably in June. And so the sun stayed up a little later, but it was probably about 6:00, and we just finished dinner. And, of course, I was doing the dishes like normal. My young sister, who was only 5 at the time, was, she really liked me then. And she liked to hang around me and follow me around and that. And I really loved her and I helped raise her. And so she was in there. She wanted to help me dry the dishes. And she was only 5. So I was like, okay, let's do this. She might have been 6. She might have just had a birthday. Anyway, so I was washing the dishes. I was helping her learn how to dry and, helping her with that task. And, our sink the kitchen sink had a window above it, like many kitchen sinks. And on one side of me was like a bar that had the stove in it. And on the other side were kitchen cupboards and had an oven in it. And then on the other side of the stove was one of those wall phones. Yes, in case you don't know what it is, phones used to be on the wall. And then you picked up the receiver and talked. And so our wall phone was there. So I'm just going along and a thunderstorm's gathering, and we had thunderstorms there all the time. So it wasn't a big problem. In fact, I enjoyed them. I'd go out and look at them and watch them in the sky and, until it started raining, and then I'd come in. But, so I thought, oh, very cool. Here comes a thunderstorm. So I'm doing my thing. All of a sudden, out of the sky comes a bolt of lightning through the window where I'm standing and hits in the sink. My little sister, my baby sister, and I both flew across the kitchen, and the stove started on fire, the oven started on fire, and the phone had flown across the kitchen with us. And my initial reaction was I grabbed my little sister, and my father came running in and jumped on us both. And that was probably a good idea because electricity was coming out of the wall sockets, right? So it was just shooting out. And he came in and jumped on us. And as soon as I could wiggle out from under him, I still had my little sister. I ran out to our car, got in the car. And all of this happened probably within 15 seconds, maybe. It's hard to know when you're in the middle of it. But I think it would probably been about 15 seconds. I was in the car. And in those days, of course, out in rural Utah, you didn't worry about locking the car. So the car, it's like the door was open. I jump in the car with my little sister. And, in a few minutes, my father runs out like baffled, like, what are you doing in the car? So, it started raining and it was still thunder and lightning. He gets in the car. He goes, what in the heck are you guys doing in the car? And I said, somewhere in the back of my mind, somebody had said that in a lightning storm a car is a good place because it's got rubber tires on it. Now, I have since learned that this isn't exactly true. But, my heart was racing. Neither of us were injured except, like getting slammed across the kitchen. Probably had a few bruises or something. My little sister was hanging on for dear life, and we were sitting in the car. So that was my initial response to a trauma that had to do with lightning. Now, at some point, I could, go on about that lightning thing. And that, it's like I got in another lightning storm right out of college. Gee, maybe it has something to do with graduation. Anyway, so right when I got out of college, I got in another lightning storm. I went to sleep underneath a pile of laundry. I didn't know how I got to that pile of laundry, and I didn't know anything about it. When I woke up, I was underneath a pile of laundry. And, people were looking for me. So that was the first time that I'd gone to sleep. So when I was up in the mountains, that's how that happened. It's like at first we were almost killed, ran away, grabbed my sister, ran away, and survived. But something happened in my brain structure that said, I don't even want to know about this. Just hide. And when it's over, you'll wake up and you'll be fine. Now, I'm not suggesting that that is the best route. I'm just saying that that's what happened. Now, today, when there's a lightning storm, unless the lightning is hitting in the backyard, I stay pretty much in the middle of the house and I watch it from the window, out the windows, because it is quite amazing and beautiful. But I'm not asleep. Okay. So I've worked through a lot of it. It still scares me when it's too close, but I don't fall asleep. I don't run outside and get in the car. And that has to do with building the resilience. Okay. So, it comes with maturity. It comes with age. It comes with wisdom. It comes with all that. But, here's the deal. When you are facing a crisis, most of the time people do fight, flight, or freeze. It isn't a thought. Okay. If you think of the last time, or if you've ever had a crisis or trauma in your life that was life-threatening, okay, or that was so terrifying you didn't think you'd live through it, your brain goes, okay, I got to either get out of here, I'm going to freeze because I'm too terrified, or I start fighting. Those are reactions that happen in the amygdala. That means that you don't have control over that. What you do have control over is what happens next. That's when, you're out of that fight, flight, or freeze zone, and now your frontal lobe is in control. If you have developed skills for resilience, you can do something once that fight, flight, or freeze has stopped. Now, some people stay in the fight, flight, or freeze longer than others, but at some point, your frontal lobe, where your executive function is, that decides what you're going to do next, at some point, that is going to take over. Now, what I learned, these were interesting little skills that I learned when I was going through this community resiliency training and trauma resiliency training. There are these little skills that anybody can use at any point. One of them has to do with, you say, you just stop and look around and identify something in your immediate vicinity where you can, focus on it just for, a few seconds and notice what color it is, what it is, the shape, what it's doing. Is it sitting? Is it floating? Is it, and notice how you feel inside. Okay. And you say, does this make me feel better? Well, if it does make you feel better, you've just gotten a skill to calm all of that brain activity down a little bit so that you can decide what to do next. Okay? And you could do this, it's like if you say you are, I'll give you mountains because that's what my experience has a lot of. It's like, I'm in the mountains. I'm by myself on a hike, and I see a huge cougar track that's fresh. Okay. So I'm going, first thing I do is freeze because I don't know what else to do. And as but I bring myself out really fast by just looking around and noticing something beautiful. And in the mountains, there's always something beautiful. And I notice that tree, because I love trees and rocks, all that. But I love trees, and I look at that tree and I just think, you're magnificent, and you're green, and you are, tall, and you're strong. And then I feel better. Trees always make me feel better, and I know that. So I look at that tree, I feel better, and then I think, okay, what am I going to do about this cougar that's like nearby? Because I know that when there's a cougar around, they know you're there way before you know they're there. And most of the time, They're not interested in you unless you threaten them in some way or you threaten to take away their kill. So I think, well, it knows I'm here. If I start singing a little song, maybe it will just leave me alone. And if I run into a dead deer or something, I'll just go back. So you see, my executive functions kicked in. I start singing a little song, and I feel much better. It's not magic, okay? The thing that brought me down from that height of, oh my God, it's a cougar, was looking at the tree. Okay. So another skill, and I think I've mentioned this before because this is kind of a favorite one of mine. I'm quite visual, so, but most of us are when it comes to beauty. So I stop and look around the room or look around where I am. Let's just take the cougar, right? That's an easy one. If I did another skill, I would identify 6 colors. And I'd say them out loud because no one's there but me and the cougar. But, if you're in a room, say, with other people and you don't want to say it out loud, that's fine. You can say it in your mind. But I go green, brown, white, blue, yellow, light blue. Then I go back and I look at one of those colors that makes me feel really safe and secure. I love light blue, so I think that day I'll look at light blue. I look at light blue and notice how I feel inside. And I would tell you this, because I do this all the time when I need to, is that when you do that, by the time you get to which color do I want, I'm already feeling much better. I feel calm. And I see this fresh cougar track, and I don't want to see that at 7 o'clock in the morning when the sun's just coming up, because I know they're out hunting. So having these skills helps me so I don't scream, turn around, and start running. That would be the worst thing to do. And here's what happens. Before I do anything, I'm using one of these skills because I don't want to flight. I don't want to do flight. So I freeze. Now, I don't make myself do that, but most people, when they see something that terrifies them, they can fight, flight, or freeze. Okay? Usually, you don't have any control over it. But depending on how you've dealt with trauma in the past, like in your childhood, you might be surprised at what you do now. So, when I was a child, we lived out in the desert and in the mountains. We were ranchers and farmers. And so if, it's like, let's say my father saw a cougar track and he maybe, hey, it's a cougar somewhere. Everybody get back in the truck or whatever. It's like that would be more frightening. And people have been with me when I've said, oh, look, there's a cougar track. And they all come and look at it. And it's like, oh, okay. And, a lot of it has to do with who you're around, too. Okay. So those are 2 skills. Another one is to walk around, if you can, and just count your steps, starting with 20 and go backwards. So you're walking around 20, 19, 18. I can pretty much tell you that by the time you reach 0, your body is calmed down. Now, when I've talked about this, it's like when you are in a state of crisis or trauma, your brain is, just pumping drugs. It's like chemicals into your system that get you ready to fight, flight, or freeze. And it doesn't stop doing that because it can stay in that hyper alert, hyper place where, your adrenaline's flowing like crazy. Cortisol is, going into your system. It's a fight, flight, or freeze. And what you want to do is you want to stop that, because nobody makes good decisions in that position. Okay? Even, somebody who's in war, soldiers who are trained, they're in a heightened state of emergency most of the time, right? But if somebody walks up behind them while they're in, waiting for the enemy to show up, somebody walks up behind them, taps them on the shoulder, they might turn around with that gun and start shooting before they even know who it is. So when you feel that, you can't help the reaction, but you can decide, you can learn how to make yourself more resilient so that you can calm all those chemicals down and your brain can calm down enough for your executive function. Okay? So you should try it. Like right now, think about, okay, so when was a traumatic event? When was a crisis? When did a crisis occur that really scared the crap out of me? And I thought, this is it. Or just the crisis occurred that didn't feel like it was going to kill you, but where you had a fight, flight, or freeze reaction. Okay? Think about that. Close your eyes and think about that for a minute. Put yourself back in that situation. Okay? So now that you're in it, I can pretty much tell you that, the chemistries are starting to show up. Now, open your eyes and look around. If you're driving in a car, don't do that. Just look ahead. And if you see something there, give it your attention, at least for a few seconds, and notice, what color is it? What shape is it? What size is it? What's it doing? And then you don't have to close your eyes for this. You just notice it. That thing that's got your attention. And then just notice how you feel inside. You went from, oh God, yeah, I remember that, to, oh, I feel better. And it's not because you stopped thinking about it, because, you can stop thinking about it, but all those, cortisol and adrenaline can still be pumping like crazy even when you're done. But you need to do something to calm those systems down. It's a brain issue. Okay? People who have levels of resilience where they can manage themselves in the face of a crisis or a trauma and do what needs to be done to take care of themselves and others, that's a high level of resilience. But it doesn't mean that they're better than anybody. It doesn't mean that they're more amazing than everybody. What it does mean is that they've had some experiences in their lives that have made them quite resilient. Okay? And you don't need to have a whole bunch of those. You can think of one that you've had. But while you're thinking about it, you think, well, okay, I can do those little exercises to become more resilient. Because, I remember Patrick Carnes, who, was kind of a pioneer in the area of trauma and what happens to people when they have trauma. It's like one time I was at a training when I was quite a bit younger on trauma, and he said, okay, we all, it's like, today we're going to talk about trauma and how to help people with trauma. And he said, one of the worst things you can do is say, okay, well, let's get through this and then you'll be okay. So, because life is full of difficulties. Scott Peck's book, The Road Less Traveled, it's a great book. Basically, it says life is difficult. Life is difficult, people. It doesn't matter where you grow up, or who you are, or what you're, nothing. Life is difficult. It's filled with challenges every single day. If you're a spiritual person, you might think, well, those challenges help my spirit grow, help my spirit get stronger. Yeah, that's true. Or if you have a religion that, it's like, kind of like, you better behave yourself or you're going to hell. It's like those challenges might mean that God is testing you. I've heard these things over time. What I think is that it's about life. Challenges are just part of life. How you deal with them says more about who you are and who you're becoming than having them in the first place. Okay? So you just own that these challenges, all kinds of challenges will occur. Patrick Carn said, the next trauma will probably be within 2 years. And that went in my brain and it stayed there. And I've noticed that, the next trauma is probably going to come in the next few years. The next pandemic is probably going to hit in the next few years. Our world is going to survive or not in the next few years. I mean, it's like, it's never over until you're dead. And then you're dead. So let's look at, think about how do I manage myself in crisis? How do I manage myself in trauma? Do I want to get better at this? Do I want to be able to manage myself to, in the face of crisis and trauma, be able to, pull my inner resources and stay in control of the situation that I'm in order to manage myself and help others? That's the question. And these are some simple exercises that you can practice now. And when you practice them now, then you'll be able to know what they are when the next crisis hits, and you can try it out. It really works. Okay. I might cover some more of this next time because in our world, resilience is kind of important. But in any event, next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Healing Your Family Legacy here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. Healing Your Family Legacy is copyright 2022, Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.
Hey friends, Sean here, your Experience of the Soul producer. I want to take a moment to tell you about something truly exciting. The SoulWorks online community, created by your host, Cynthia Alice Anderson, and available on the Mighty Networks app. If you're looking for a place where you can explore your spiritual path, connect with others, and grow in a meaningful way, then this is for you. SoulWorks is so much more than an online community. It's a safe, inclusive space for spiritual exploration, self-discovery, and personal transformation. Inside the community, you'll find everything from uplifting spiritual studies to soul-centered growth practices meditations, affirmations, and so much more. It's a space where you'll always be supported and never judged. The best part, membership is free. You'll have access to powerful resources, inspiring content, and a supportive group of like-minded people who are all on their own unique spiritual journeys. And if you're ready to dive deeper, there are premium options available to enhance your experience with a live Monday night talk series and extended, deeper meditations. If you're seeking a place to connect, grow, and nurture your soul, we would love to have you join us in the SoulWorks community and see where this journey can take you. Visit my.soulworkscommunity.com today.